my interest was piqued. My antenna went up and I thought, oh, coaching.
Wellness pros launched their own club-based models based on annual recurring.
We were not eligible. Our training could not be eligible.
Your intuition's activated when you have 2 feet in different expertise.
If I'm like that, then something bad happens to me or I turn into somebody that I don't like.
So glad. Well, it's fun being on your site and just seeing, kind of what I want to do in this episode is really, help people understand what's involved in creating a certification. Because I think a lot of wellness pros have an idea to do it, and you've done it so well. And then to move to what you're doing next and the power of executive coaching. Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay.
That's so funny. I forgot that website is actually live. I mean, I haven't shared it because it's, there are a couple of pieces still missing, but I'm so glad you got to see.
Or is there somewhere? So I've got careypeters.com. Is that?
Yeah, no, it's fine. It will be. It will be fine to send people to. There was just one thing that had to be fixed, and I forgot that it was still it was actually live anyway.
Oh, okay,
it's totally fine.
Okay, got it. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here we go. We're already recording, so I'm just gonna start with a little bit of an intro, and then we'll dive right in. Okay, welcome everyone to the Wellness Pro podcast. I'm here with Carey Peters, who is was the co-founder of Health Coach Institute HCI, which is one of the world's leading health and life coaching training programs. And there she helped train tens of thousands of coaches across more than 50 countries. She's a master health and life coach, a speaker, trusted business mentor. And she spent more than 2 decades teaching coaches how to deliver real transformation and how to build sustainable, profitable practices around their work. So you've also had 2 exits in coaching programs, and I'd love to find out just really more. I know this next phase of your career is so much more about working with founders, working with leaders, and how you're doing executive coaching, at a much higher level now. So one of the reasons I thought it would be great to bring you on the Wellness Pro podcast is a lot of wellness pros who they have their own method. They may have a signature system and people want to learn that from them. And they're often, I would say unaware of what actually goes into creating a certification program. So I'd like you just to talk a little bit about your background before you created HCI, and just give people a sense of where you were actually at in your career when you started.
Well, I would say I'm a very unlikely entrepreneur, even though it's been 20 years. I started out as an actress. I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Acting from the theater school at DePaul University, and was a Screen Actors Guild, Actors Equity, working actress, mostly theater and commercials. I was always a soccer mom in commercial, but theater was my passion. I actually came upon coaching because I hit, as many actors do, kind of a dry spell in my career. And I was working in, temp jobs to fill the time. And I thought, this is so boring and so pointless. What am I doing here? And I had this secret desire that I never told anybody. I thought, I really want to help people. And so I thought well, I'll be a therapist. I'll become a PsyD and let me look into what school looks like. And I was oh my gosh, that's going to be 7 years of school, 7 to 8 years with all the different components that are included. I was thinking about the debt that I would be in from tuition. And I was gosh, I'm going to be, into my and how much money will I really be able to make? And will this really work with my acting career? Is it flexible enough? And while I was kind of going through all of that evaluation, my sister sent me an email about somebody who called herself a health coach. And I was just my interest was piqued. My antenna went up and I thought, oh, coaching. So I could help people still, but I don't have to go to school for 7 years and be however many tens of $1,000s in debt. And I could still do this. And I was well, I don't know if actually I could do it. And maybe it's too good to be true, but maybe I'll go into this training and I'll just see what happens. And for me at the time, to invest in a certification training was crazy. I had never done anything like that before. And I went into it thinking, well, I don't know if I'll ever actually be able to be a coach, honestly, for my profession, but I know this will change me for the rest of my life. And I think that's worth it. So I went for it. And then I became crazy passionate about it. And when I graduated, I was I am going to be a coach. This is going to be my side gig. I had not retired from acting. I still was working. And I realized pretty quickly, oh my gosh, I don't know how to build a business. And quite frankly, I don't really know what I'm offering. I had clients, I worked with clients, and sometimes the sessions were impactful and sometimes they weren't. And I couldn't figure out why. I didn't know what the difference was.
Yeah.
It's like, well, some people get results and I'm giving them the same information. It's the same structure. And then finally, I got the opportunity to listen in on a coaching demo, and I heard a really masterful coach coaching someone. And I was like in shock. I was like, wait, is that what coaching is? I have no idea how to do what that person is doing. I kind of had to have a come to Buddha moment with myself of like, wow, I've invested a ton of time, energy, resources, and I never actually learned how to coach. And so it was a crossroads moment of like, well, either I could just say, forget it. I quit. I'm going to find another day job, or I'm listening to this person do it. Like I bet if I just learn how, I could do it. Why them and not me? Yeah. And so I decided, all right, I'm going to learn how to coach. I did. So, and then ended up creating, a 6-figure business as a coach. And I had coaches started come to me and say like, hey, how are you doing what you're doing? Can you coach me? And I was like, no, I don't do that. I'm not the person. And then finally, it happened so often that I ended up starting to train other coaches. And then I partnered with Stacey Morgenstern, who was my co-coach and partner in crime and business partner for over 15 years. And we started training coaches on business in particular. How do you take coaching and make it into a business? So we had a whole group of people that would work with us. And what they kept asking us over and over and over again was, but how did you learn how to coach like that? How'd you learn those skills? Can you teach me how to coach like you're teaching? And we were kind of like, never considered that. Well, and then we were like, we were asked so many times that we were like, I guess it's time to create a certification, like a coach certification, which, on the one hand, we thought like, well, who the hell are we to be doing that? And on the other hand, we were like, well, but we have all these people in front of us who are asking. Yeah. And we do have a methodology that's multiple combination of things that we had learned over the years. And so we're like, all right, we'll give it a shot. And then it just quickly became apparent to us that we absolutely loved training coaches, that we were so passionate about the craft. I'm very passionate about business. I love business. I think that there's so many exciting things that can happen as a result of building a powerful business. But if your business is coaching, if you are a coach, then I also feel very dedicated to the craft of it. It is an art and a science. Yeah. And one that I still am I'm 20 years into this career and I'm still taking coach trainings. I am still improving my skills. And I think that comes from my acting days. You never stop honing your craft. You continue. And so we quickly fell in love with certifying coaches, and we ended up intersecting with a group of people who were experts in generating leads and converting leads into for-profit schools online. And they felt like, hey, there's a huge opportunity in health coaching and life coaching. And honestly, people had asked Stacey and I hey, where were you when I started coaching? Why don't you have a become a coach training? We were basically like a graduate level. Someone had already gone to a school and they were trying to figure out their career and trying to increase their confidence with their coaching skill. So we were like, people had suggested it to us over and over. Again, your audience kind of telling you what the next step is. Yeah. Even before you're on board with it necessarily. Yeah. But when we met this group of gentlemen, they were really convinced that there was enormous opportunity in health coaching, in training health coaches, and in particular because so much of the audience was women. And at the time when we started HCI, when we were talking about starting HCI in 2014, there weren't a ton of women. A lot of the bigger schools were guys or were older men. They weren't necessarily. So the 4 gentlemen that we ended up partnering with who acquired us to create HCI, their hypothesis was if I put people who reflect the audience of buyers in front of them that they can connect to, that is going to take market share. And that was 100% correct. That's still true today. Yeah. Absolutely. It's even more true because we're gone. Yeah. And so there are a couple other schools that are not operating the same as well. So that was their hypothesis at the time. We were like, oh, okay, you guys, this seems crazy. You're going to be able to build a school. They showed us financial modeling. Here's how we're going to be doing this. The first 3 years is 0 to 25 million. And we were like, right. See, we built our business over of the 5 years that our first business together was called Holistic MBA. It was mastering the business and of coaching for people who don't necessarily consider themselves business people, which I didn't, and neither did. So we're artists, myself and my co-founder, Stacy, who became business people. But during that time, when she and I first started, our first year was $500,000. And then our second year was $1.5 million. And then we went to 2.3 million and then 3.2 million and 3.4 million. We had grown the business, but for us to go from 0 to 25 in 3 years, we were like, can't comprehend that.
Right.
We also just didn't understand. We grew organically and their expertise was in paid ads.
Sure.
So we did not understand the power of paid ads at the time. Right. And so we were kind of like, okay, it seems like I see your model here. We know you have this experience with ads. We know we don't. It was a good match because we had pieces that the other didn't have. So then when we all came together and started HCI, which, it was a year in the making, and everyone was pouring their heart into it, 100%. Even the logo for HCI was 4 interlocking hearts. It was truly, absolutely one of the greatest loves of my life. And I'll choke up if I think about it too much. And we started it, and lo and behold, they were right. The hypothesis was correct. You put people in front of the audience that they can relate to. And Stacy and I were an interesting pair because we're 2 very different people. And usually, when you're looking at a personality brand, it's like one person. Yeah. And that one person it's very guru-oriented, not totally, but like the person is the celebrity. Do you know what I mean? Yep. And you're sort of like following the person. But with Stacy and I, it was 2 people. So it took that kind of guru thing away. And it was way more about all of us together. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that was very powerful. And the other thing was some people could relate to me. Some people could relate to her. There was just more for the audience to connect to. Yeah. Because there were 2 of us. And it absolutely took off like a rocket. And I was stunned, amazed, like just, oh my God. And there's a whole lot we can talk about in terms of the mindset shifts that had to happen in order for like all of a sudden now there's a team of 20 people or there's, where Stacy and I would have live events and we might have 400 people in a room for Holistic MBA, our first business, but now there's 900 people in a room, or we might have had 6,000 people on a webinar. Well, now there's like 20,000. I mean, it just the number change was so significant that there was a lot of evolution that had to happen in our own mindset for it to be like, I can hold this. Because as the personality that's anchoring the brand, you're holding it all, right? Plus you're moving people through a certification process that's going to have a lot of emotional ups and downs. When people are doing something new, it's scary. They're tested in all kinds of ways. And especially when you're suggesting to them, hey, I think you might be more capable than you think of building a business on your own terms. This is somebody in Wellness Pro. You're doing this all the time with your people in Wellness Pro, where we're having to open up to the possibility that we're actually capable of a lot more than we might think.
Yeah. Well, fear of rejection that comes with that, right?
Yeah, for sure. And so being able to hold all of that for a huge team, a huge group of people, it was quite a shift. But there's so many things that I take away from my time with HCI. But one of them is that certification is an incredibly powerful way to increase your impact and your legacy. We ended up having an investor come into the business in 2018, and then we ended up exiting the business in 2023. And Stacy and I worked for the buyer for a year and some change, but then it's over. And we knew it was going to be over because it just was not. It often happens when there's an acquisition. I think it's like 70% of the time the founder leaves or is fired or it's just not a fit, right? When somebody buys your business, it is their business at that point, right? Yeah. And so I knew that was going to be the outcome in whatever way, shape, or form.
Were you just more curious about the next phase of your life at that point? Like, why did you give it up?
Well, I didn't have a choice.
Okay. And that was the initial partnership.
Yeah. So HCI, keep in mind, was 6 founders and an investor.
Okay. Gotcha. So it's the agreements.
Yeah. It was not like it was my decision. I didn't have control. We had a board, we had voting rights and shared,
Yeah.
Even Stacy and I together, we didn't have control. Which is a whole nother like conversation to have about what is that like when you are the creator and the founder and whatever. If I could have had HCI where we had the ability to continue to evolve the curriculum and evolve the experience, because, I created that in 2015. We revamped it multiple times, but today my coaching has evolved significantly. Like I use different tools, frameworks, all kinds of things. If I could have continued to take what happens in my coaching practice with my clients and pour that back into the business and continue to have that real time, I could have done that for the rest of my career.
Yeah. It's like the thought leadership component.
Right.
Which is always evolving.
Exactly. But that wasn't what it was anymore.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough.
Especially because like a private equity firm, whether they're an investor that's coming in or a private equity buyer, part of their charge for the future sale of their business is to reduce risk. And often a founder is seen as a risk, right?
Totally.
If the business can't operate without the founder, well, that's problematic, right? So it was in their best interest to make sure that the business wasn't founder dependent. Whereas for Stacy and I, it's like the whole joy of it for us is the connection between taking what we're doing that's working in real time and sharing that with the audience and having that emotional connection together. Like that was the real joy of it for us.
Yeah. That like the fulfillment and the meaning that the transformation. Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
I just want to like to highlight a few things. Like one is the reason it took off. The reason HCI took off is they figured out marrying the marketing, like where the leads are going to come from with the coaching model. Right. Where so many wellness pros struggle is the leads. And we see this. And again, it's like they may have a great offer. They often don't have the systems down for leads and sales.
And let me just share with that. We were in discussions about this for a good year, if not a little bit longer, because they were making a $25 million bet on us. And when we on them also. But what they had seen proof of was over the course of our business, we generated $10 million. They saw that we had clients that would stay with us for years and years. They came to live events that we hosted and saw the reaction to us. Like if they're saying, hey, we eventually want to get this to $50 million or whatever, who are the people that are going to have, it's very rare to have that kind of, I don't know, I'm not saying this because I'm like tooting my own horn. I just think this was the role I was meant to play in HCI. But there is a way where like you have to have as the face of the brand or the teacher, whatever, there has to be a certain amount of, I don't know if it's magnetism or whatever that has people want to spend time with you.
There's a word in Yiddish that comes to mind, which is chutzpah.
Well, for sure. But like you're basically hoping as the our other founders of HCI are going, we're betting on the fact that thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of women are going to want to spend time, a lot of time with these two women. Yeah. That's a big bet. And what we were proven at that point, we had proof versus like, I'm going to hire a coach for, I don't know, $75 an hour or $75,000 a year to make me a certification. Anybody can do that. It's not, when you think about creating a certification for yourself in your world, part of what's going to give you a green light as to whether or not you're ready for that, if you have the proven methodology, which you already mentioned, but if people are already asking you, they're already clients, they're already followers, they're already fans, and they're going, can you teach me to do what you're doing?
Yeah.
Then you're in a good position.
Yeah. And that's exactly what happened with me back in like between 2010 and 2012 with yoga health coaching. Is people were like, how are you doing this? It was mostly Ayurvedic medicine practitioners and yoga studio owners, yoga teachers that were like, how are you doing this? What's going on behind the scenes? And I was like, well, I'll make a little system for you, and then I'll teach you how to do it. And then I'll coach you into the next evolving part so that your unique voice can come through. And then, it's like the one thing, exactly what you said. There's this co-creative process when I don't even want to call them an audience or a fan base because they're really collaborators. It's more as like clients as collaborators. And we teach this a lot in Wellness Pro Academy, as we have Wellness Pros launch their own like club-based models based on annual recurring revenue, and the annual model is, it's like, you don't actually have to do too much in the beginning if you already have a decent client roster. Like, they're going to tell you exactly what they need help with next. And if you're great at what you do, you'll naturally be able to break that down into smaller action steps for them to do together, and be able to like build a momentum of a group going in a direction to transformational results.
That's right. I think a certification is, you're too early for one when you really haven't worked with people.
Oh gosh.
You have a methodology in your mind, but you haven't like proven it with groups of people.
Yeah.
Then it's wonderful I certainly have clients who are like, I see that in my future.
Yeah.
I want to eventually add certification. Totally makes sense to have that as a future vision. But you definitely want to make sure, like in your experience, Cate, where you have the people are there, they're experiencing what you're doing, and they're asking you to teach them how to do what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about like the accreditation and like the maintenance of the actual, like behind the scenes, creating your own certification.
For sure. I mean, the good news is that certification is very similar to any other offer. There's going to be some collection of components that you're putting together. For example, whatever you teach Wellness Pros and how to create the club and the way that the club is offered. There's some elements, right, that you're teaching everybody on how to do it. That's an offer, the club, right? There's a million kinds of offers that people can make, right? But the club is the proven one that you're teaching. Certification is only really different in that you are adding credibility, and then you have some sort of proof mechanism. And there also has to be a very specific deliverable. I mean, every offer has to have a specific deliverable, but in the terms of certification, you have to be able to tell people, how can you use this once you have it? What is the benefit to you?
Yeah.
Becoming a coach, like, you can make money. That can be your business. Or you can get a job as a coach. Some people don't want to build a business. They just want to show up and coach, and that's fine too. So understanding like very clearly what the deliverable is going to be, very clearly how you're going to establish credibility. So for example, with HCI, we were able to provide a path to ICF and ACC credential. We were not like a complete level 1 ICF training, but there were enough components that people were going to get a large way there.
Yeah.
With our training. And then we wanted to add the credibility of the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches and have our training have graduates be eligible for their board's exam. But this is an important story because the fact was, Stacey and I don't have master's degrees. We were not eligible. Our training could not be eligible for a National Board of Health and Wellness Coaches. This is problematic. I remember talking to them and saying, but I have 15 years of like life experience. Does that matter? And they literally said, that doesn't give us any proof that you can think at a master's level. I was like, okay. I mean, all right. This is where they're coming from. Okay. So given that, does that mean
it's totally nuts? Like when you look at like, well, how much revenue has it generated, versus someone with a master's degree who just like knows a bunch of.
I know, but that their whole point for existence is to give health coaching a high level of credibility, similar to like, and it's academic based, like for them, which I do think there's value in that. So I understand.
There's room to play, right?
But as the entrepreneur, you don't go, oh, well, and I guess we don't get a national board, or we have to retool our entire certification. No, because it would have to
go back to school.
No, none of that. All you do is hire someone who has a master's degree, and you create a bolt-on for people to be able to prepare. Now, we had leadership that decided to create an entire second 6-month training, and it was a little nuts and caused a lot of confusion.
How much did it matter? Like, how much did all of those other bodies, like, did it really matter? Or how much is it more being like self-ordained, like effective marketing, effective results, good member stories or client stories?
Well, this is what you have to know for your audience. What matters to them at point of sale for the initial certification?
Okay. Yeah.
The percentage of people that would go on to become eligible for National Board of Health was infinite, very tiny percentage.
Exactly.
The number of people who would go on to do ICF, I think, would have been bigger, but there were more things they had to do to get that ICF certification. So the reality is you have, at least for HCI and for us to be like a big competitor and take enough market share, those things were simply credibility.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You had to have them for point of sale.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, what's interesting for like in yoga health coaching was like so many people came in and they already had 5 certifications. So they weren't actually looking for more. Whereas with HCI, was that often kind of like IIN? Was this like people's first rodeo?
Yes, often.
Okay, great. So they're like transitioning from corporate or transitioning from raising the kids. And they're okay. I think that's such a good, like, know your audience distinction, because one thing that we actually would market to is like, you already have the stack of certifications. Like now it's time to actually make money in a business model that works. And yes, we'll certify you as a yoga health coach or now like a Body Thrive coach. But like really at the end of the day, it's the business model that's going to drive your financial success, not the like extra certification.
100%. And that was Stacy's and my first business, Holistic MBA. We would say, actually, but a lot of our students came from IIN. And at the time, we graduated from there also. We were part of their faculty for some time, like guest faculty for business, but we knew that their graduates didn't know how to coach. I don't know about that now.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure it's changed a lot. This was way
I still
back.
Graduate. So it's like,
I don't know. Here's what I think. From every coaching school, people come out and struggle with confidence. It's just a reality. And I do think there are differences in the types of trainings and whether or not one coach training might be better than another. But the reality is, no matter how good your coaching education is, you are going to struggle with your confidence until you have worked with a certain number of clients. And even then, you're going to go into every coaching session and be like, and the reason why is because as the coach, the experience of the value doesn't happen until you're working with the client. Yeah. So when you're trying to determine your value and your worth and your confidence and you're outside of coaching sessions, and that's when we're thinking about it, we go, I don't know if I have any value. I don't know if there's any way, right? But when you're in the session with anybody, a practice client, a paying client, whatever, then you go, this is really valuable. This is really great. I see why. But you're always reminded when you're in the session. When you're out, forget it.
Yeah.
So the hard part is helping people get over the hump and just start doing it. You have to keep doing it because otherwise you just never arrive. You will have 10 certifications. You will have 15 business trainings and you still won't be at a place where you feel confident,
Totally. That's why we're all like, earn while you learn. It's just like, like you've gotta get you doing it. However we can get you started and then doing it. And then you'll see the results and then there's this stuff. It reminds me of this really hilarious YouTube short, which goes into like what to sell who. And it's like sell men status, full woman confidence. And it's like, okay, so now let's go into the whole process in terms of like maintaining certifications and having people renew or license or whatnot. How did you encounter those?
Well, you have to think about from a business perspective, the certification is like the process that you create that you're training people in. Licensing is like a formal agreement about being able to use materials going forward. It all depends, the choice as to whether or not you're going to have continuing education hours or you're going to have some sort of licensing fee that people pay yearly. It all depends on the operational lift and whether the juice is worth the squeeze. At HCI, in a lot of larger training schools, part of the issue with that business model is that the initial certification, people feel like, well, I did that. I have to figure out this and justify this investment before I do anything more. So traditionally, the back end sales are so significantly lower. So if you are going to say, well, but I want to increase lifetime value and have licensing and have people pay, you're not increasing lifetime value. What you're doing is bogging your team down with something that's going to make next to no income for the company relative to if you took that energy and put it toward front end sales or put it toward, people are especially coming, you have to understand your audience and what your audience is looking for, what they're going to need. When someone comes out of a coach certification, they need the most amount of handholding with business and they need the most amount of pushing to coach.
Oh, it's so true.
Right?
Yep.
This is what it is. So for them to go, well, I'm going to make my money on a licensing agreement, but the licensing agreement is not solving either of those problems.
Right. Totally.
And it's not dealing with the objection of, I just invested thousands of dollars in this initial certification and I should be able to figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
So what is a licensing? So for your business, you have to figure out, is it worth it? Now, someone might have a very different setup. So maybe there's a wellness professional that has a proprietary methodology. I'm just making this up for somebody with an autoimmune condition, for example. And they're training, they create a certification and they need to know that the materials are so proprietary that they have to make sure that these people they're training are using the materials correctly and appropriately. Like there has to be some kind of tracking mechanism. Whereas for us, it was like, I don't care if you take every single done for you thing I've ever made. Take it. That's not the value. Do you know what I mean? It is part of the value.
Yeah.
The materials, but to me, the materials were never so precious that they had to be, it just wasn't like that for our, so it's going to depend very specifically on the kind of certification that you're creating and who your audience is and the kinds of problems that your business needs to solve once your people are through the certification.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. I mean, the other thing for me was ethos. It's like, I wanted wellness pros to exercise their native genius. And I love the book Strategic Intuition from Columbia Business Press. I think it's Michael Dugan. And it was like, your intuition's activated when you have 2 feet and different expertise and you're merging them into the unknown. And that's how I always felt when talking with a wellness pro is first thing I want to do is find their own native genius. Then how does this system assist them? Right. And give them, a faster path to doing that, but less of let's all be exactly the same. Let's less be this cookie cutter. And I totally agree on the maintenance end and the upsell end. It's just not well thought out when what we really want to do is help them in their careers because that's really what they need the most help with. So let's unpack that a little bit because what I sense is this is in working with so many wellness pros is and some of them, 20, 30 years into a career, really great at what they do, such a boon to their clients or their patients, but they just haven't put any real juice into the business modality side in terms of understanding a business model that works for their wellness lifestyle, that actually works for their client base to have transformational experiences. And so what I found over time was when I just would measure how much money a wellness pro would put into their modality training versus their business training, it was just wow, super heavy on modalities, really with a unconscious or maybe subconscious or maybe even conscious belief behind it that the next modality was what would be their market differentiator. And then they would really start making, whatever it was break 6 figures or break $250,000, that would really get them to that hump.
Right.
So let's go through a bit about that belief and how you guys helped your students, your members overcome it.
Well, I think, underneath, if you're building it's such a highly entrepreneurial endeavor and people that are drawn to healing professions are not necessarily drawn to hustling. Right. And so I mean, if I even think about my own background for many years, I'm an artist. I even said that on this podcast. I'm also an entrepreneur, but that took coaching to open my brain up to the possibility that I could even be that.
Yeah.
And that actually I can be both things. Yeah. It's not one or the other. So, often I think when you talk about people, it's the next modality that's going to break me. No, it's the opening up to I am an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
One of the questions I ask my clients is, well, who are you as a $10 million a year entrepreneur? Who are you as a 6-figure entrepreneur? Who are you? Because if we don't have any sense of who we are like that, I don't have a we can't know an exact definition. I couldn't have told you 15 years ago, this is who I'd be today. But when one of my mentors asked me that question, I was just taken aback because I'm I have no idea. I've never considered myself I've just never even. Yeah. So I think in some ways it's really about opening up to the identity of I am a successful entrepreneur. I am a successful business owner. I am 100,000, $500,000, whatever.
Yeah.
Business. And what does that mean? What is my life like? What do I value? There's fear a lot of well, if I'm like that, then something bad happens to me or I turn into somebody that I don't like. I have some association, right? That feels scary in some way. Does that resonate for you? It's still
we just did a 2-day training on this. And so in Club Thrive, I demonstrate the club model as a business. And we have these 2-day planning every every trimester. We do them 3 times a year where we just bring everyone in for vision, strategy, and planning. And that's what we do. I mean, that's exactly what we notice, like their fractal over their life of where their unique genius is going into the future, the past identities that they've had. Then we pick the future forward day and say, like, who is she? And now how do we reverse engineer her into the next 4 months so that you're actively engaging with what each day looks like so that she manifests faster. So absolutely. And it's so effective in bringing up that fear of, whether it's like some sort of fear of action, right?
Well, it's a fear of the result of that action. If they take an action, the result could be any number of worries or concerns, rejection, afraid that the action actually will be successful.
Yeah. But often just not acting. Like I often find there's just not this like, oh, I actually have to reach out. I actually have to video myself.
Yes.
I actually have to do these things instead of pushing that further and further out. Like, how do I pull that into what tomorrow looks like? Because what she's doing at, whether it's 100K, 250K, a million, right, 10 million, it's like what she's doing is probably a lot different than what I'm doing at this prior state.
Absolutely. I'm working with a client right now. Her goal is $250,000 a year. And I just started asking, like, okay, so as a $250,000 a year business owner, what decision would you like to make about this? Oh, okay. Well, that's a different context for the decision. Same with another client who's trying to get to 10 million, So the nice thing about that is that no matter where you are or what stage you are in terms of revenue, it's a similar challenge in that we have to open up to the possibility of who am I going to be when I'm this person, and what parts of me are okay with it and what parts of me are like,
yeah, I love that. Yeah. It's like one of the things for, I think, a lot of wellness pros who are like, well, I don't want to do these different parts of the business, right? Like I'll just hire someone to do my sales or hire someone to do my marketing or go for it.
No, you won't. You won't. That's them saying on some level, I have not gotten right with the reality of what I'm saying I want and the reality of what it's going to take to get it. It's very similar to people who are like, I'm going to create information products or memberships and I'm going to sell online, but they're not learning how to direct response copyright. That is the only skill. That's the only skill. So I can hire a copywriter or AI. No, you can't. Not to start, eventually, but not to start. So those are the places that show that there is not total alignment inside about the direction.
Yeah. Or just ignorance, right? Just like this naivety of if I just create it, build it, and they will come, feel the dreams, right?
No. I will say this though. I have met, and maybe you have as well, I have encountered a couple like unicorn people, coaches, who it really just does come out of the woodwork. That does happen occasionally. It's just not the more common experience is what you and I are describing.
Yeah. And I think there's this, one of the things that I keep coaching on, and I'd love to also have you just close with one of the frameworks or things that you're just loving in how you're evolving edge of coaching, but respect for people who've made it to a place where you haven't yet. And then respect for like what it took for them to do that. Like, what did they need to become masterful at, whether it was a skill, a tool, a people set, or like a mindset. And usually it's a combination. Like just real respect for like, what is it actually? So say we'll take the wellness pro who's at 6 figures trying to get to $250,000 is like, first of all, respect the people that are there. Find out what they had to do. Find out what their missing skills were or what missing tools were or missing people, which could be like a coach or a mentoring group or mastermind group. Right. And then the mindset that changed from when they were at 6 figures to $250,000. And then just respect that because they've proven it. Right. They've actually proven that they're there. And I just find like that causes this, because instead people are like, well, my value, I know I'm worth $250,000. And it's like, not until you get there.
Right. Well, and the other thing is like, you personally are priceless.
Yeah, you're priceless.
Right. But your offer, the offer that your business is making may or may not be that value. It's hard when you are the one delivering the service. We equate it's my value. Well, but my value is infinite, but the service I'm providing doesn't necessarily mean. So when you say respect, the way you see something that's not respect is by someone saying, but I know I'm already worth that. Is that my understanding that? Or is that
I hear a lot of like, I know I deserve more. I know, it's like this idea of like, I actually know what it takes to be where I want to go when you don't, because you're not there.
Right.
And you don't know until you're there. And so when I talk to you, it's like, you've got 2 exits. I have huge respect for that because I have 0 exits. And I'm not sure I've never really wanted to go in that direction, but there's still a huge amount of respect,
Right?
Because you've done something that I really don't know much about.
I will tell you, I had my daughter very late in life. I was 41. I called all of my friends who had children. I said, I am so sorry. I had absolutely no idea what you were going through. No idea. And they were all very gracious. Like, of course you didn't. You don't know until you are walking a mile in the shoes. But that's part of the reason why I love supporting founders, because nobody understands what a founder is holding and the risk and the pressure and the stakes. Unless they have done it, they do not understand. Their team doesn't understand. Friends and family who love them, they don't understand unless they've been a founder. And it's okay. It's not because people are jerks. It's just like some things, you can't know till you do it. You just can't. Just like with parents, you can't know. So I think maybe what I guess I would think about it in this way of like, I don't know if it's humility or curiosity.
Yeah.
Of going like, wow, if somebody has a result or something that I don't have, there is knowledge attached to that I also don't have. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I think you're right. It's both. It's like both that humility and curiosity, that beginner's mind.
Yes. Right. Yes. I mean, yes, I may have had 2 exits, but I'm so curious. I have plenty to learn from you and everything that you've done. Right. So I don't know. I think that that is the other thing where when we're building something and there's a tendency to want to just get there, but the reality is there is just like, there is no there. It's more learning. The older I get, the less I know. And truly.
Yeah. Right.
Truly.
Yeah.
There's always learning, and nobody like arrives and now I figured everything out and now my life is perfect. Like that's false.
Yeah. 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 And such a fun landscape to play in. Like there's just so much, I don't know. And I look back, I've been in business for 25 years. And it's like, it's just never been more exciting than today. My mom was with me last week and, she's always kind of blown away of like how much I want to work because their other kids don't really have that relationship with work. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, but like there's so much learning every day and it lights me up. And it's just it's just such a fun landscape right now.
It is. I mean, I certainly, there's a lot of concerns over, AI and one of my favorite books that has really inspired me is called Same as Ever. It's by an author. His name is Morgan Housel, Housel. And basically looking at what are the things that don't change, human nature, like people investing in things that they want to solve, like, right, that they have a problem, they want to solve it, they're investing. So holding to those things that like we actually know don't change, even as the world is changing fast around us. I think in some ways, like one of the best things we can do is keep our heads, because there's going to be an enormous amount of pressure to run fast and make huge decisions or you're going to fall behind. And I don't, maybe.
Yeah.
But also maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think there has to be, I think that's also like working with somebody like you get the opportunity to have someone to continue regrounding you, re-anchoring, recentering, refocusing, because the world is swirling around us. And so I think we all need that you serve that function for the people that you help. And I, for my clients and my mentors for me, we all need that. I want to say thank you so much for this conversation. I feel like I'm sure we have a time limit, but I could talk forever. All these open roads we could go down.
I'd love to have you back on and just to talk about coaching, just how you love. I'd just love to have a conversation on like the how to coach, because I think that would be such a fun thing for us to compare notes and really.
I have shivers. I would love to. Yes,
okay, let's do it.
Count me in.
Everyone, this has been Carey Peters. You can if you are looking for an executive coach and you want to talk to Carey, go to careypeters.com. It has been such a pleasure, Carey. Let me just spell your name: Carey. Peters.
Yeah, it's like Mariah Carey. Carey.
Such a pleasure. And we'll have you back to talk about coaching.
Okay, Kate. Bye.